Okay, so Nissan has refreshed the Nissan Frontier, and I like this refresh a lot, specifically for the interior changes that we have here for 2025. So what we're going to do in this video is have a look at those changes, both from the exterior design compared to the 2022 model when it was first refreshed from a front, side, and rear. There are some changes in the rear end as well. Pretty cool changes. Love the wheels that we have here as well. And then, of course, going to have a look at the interior too to see what's new in there. But before we do that, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver, link down below. 2025 Nissan Frontier gets brawnier looks and added capability, light styling, refresh, and several new standard features. It sounds very, very good. Here you have the new design. You can see that we have a new grille. We have new graphics up here. This is probably the only piece that I'm not so sure about. I really like the old one. Gonna show you exactly what I mean in a minute. So the changes include a beefier grille and front bumper, and inside the Frontier now has a 12.3-inch infotainment screen instead of the old 9-inch, I do believe it was. Standard on all trims except for the base S. Higher max towing as well, 7,150 pounds. That's up by 510 pounds, a pretty substantial increase. The black plastic bumper trim now extends all the way up to meet the grille, and the grille itself has also been restyled with chunkier elements and 3 thin vents on the top above the Nissan badge. The Frontier Pro X and the Pro 4X models wear a new layer of black trim across the tailgate. You can see that right here, and I kind of like how this looks. It adds more of this rugged feel that I specifically want to see for exactly the Pro 4X and the Pro X. And you also have a new color, which is this one again for 2025, called Afterburn Orange. I like the design of this. It looks like a traffic cone. Lightly revised dashboard centered around the new 12.3-inch infotainment screen, which is a notable improvement over the outgoing 9-inch display option, which also looked very when it came out in 22, the Frontier already looked pretty dated in the interior, and this just steps it up by a lot, and now it actually looks like a 2025 model year. You also have wireless Android Auto now, and in addition to the wireless Apple CarPlay. You also have new wheels, 17-inch wheels for the SV, and a sliding rear window and an overhead sunglass holder are now standard on all Frontiers. The off-road camera mode now works up to 12 miles per hour, and Nissan has made a lot of driver assistance tech standard across the range. Not something that I'm particularly interested in. I don't really ever like any sort of driving assistance except for blind spot warning. That's the one that I really like on pretty much every single car. But here you have lane departure warning, rear parking sensors, and adaptive cruise control, which is also a feature I really like when it comes to the tech. It continues to be powered by the same 3.8-liter V6 with 310 horsepower and 281 pound-feet of torque. Very good engine here. It still made it to the same 9-speed automatic transmission. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and check this out. What's new for the 2025 Frontier? What color should we use here? We have green and sort of orange, so let's make it, I guess, blue so you can see what it is I'm actually sketching on here. And also let's fire up the tablet. I always forget to do that before I start recording. So here we go. We have the old one, or the pretty old one. I mean, it was, as I said, felt dated when it first came out, the 2022 model year up here. And then we have the new one, 2025 refresh, down here. So what's new? I said I preferred the top part of the previous one, the 2022. With that, I mean this section here on top of the grille that says that is embossed or stamped into the top piece here, Frontier. I liked that a lot. It just gives it a... It feels like Nissan is proud to showcase what model this is by showing Frontier up here on the grille. And I also love these headlights with the when you go for the higher trims, which has these 2 LEDs. Reminds me a little bit of Ram headlights. And we have this cut here in the side. Now looking at the new one here, what's new? We still have the same headlights, which is totally fine because they still already look pretty modern to me with the with these LEDs here. We have the same cut, but you can see here, compared to the old one, the cut now extends into the housing of the fog lights. So you can see that right here, how he goes in here, wraps around with some black plastic and creates its housing for the fog light. I do think this is cool because here we don't really have a... It feels like the fog light just floating here in the middle of nowhere, doesn't have any connection to this piece or to this piece. So now we have a clear connection with the graphics here. I really like how it wraps around and kind of brings the fog light into the family of front-end graphics in this case. We also have these new sort of styling features up top. These are not functional, it's just for styling purposes. These three fake vents up here instead of what used to be, as I said, the Frontier up here. Still looks pretty good, but it would still be cool to have the model name stamped up top on the grille. And we also have this black graphic now stretching all the way and meeting the grille right here. The grille is also redesigned right here. Very small changes for the grille itself. Looks pretty similar to what we have before, but I also sort of like that we had a clear separation here between the top part of the graphics and the lower section right here with this body painted piece of bumper. But again, this being a Pro 4X, it sort of suits this to have a more rugged, all unpainted black plastic in the front end. So I'm not totally opposed to this change, but I still prefer, I think I prefer the previous one. We had the body color going right here. Let's see if the lower section is changed. It looks like this is exactly the same as what we have in the 2025 with these two intakes here. You have a proper skid plate down low. We have the same intakes here, as you can see, and still have the skid plate here with the tow hooks on each corner. Looking at the side view here, not a lot of changes here. The big changes are obviously going to happen in the wheel setup. I always like this design because it feels very classic in this type of size of truck. The proportions are great. We have this 3-box design as I've showed you so many times before. Box 1 up there, box 2 being the greenhouse, box 3 being the bed itself. But the big changes here is going to happen right here. Look at these wheels. I like the old wheels, but these just look almost Baja style with these thick rubber that we have going all around here. It looks like the wheel itself is maybe a little bit smaller than what it used to be, or is just the graphics that's playing some visual tricks on me here. But it looks like it has chunkier tires now, and I also still love the wheel design of this new 2025. Just looks very cool and very off-roady. It feels like this will be a very comfortable car or truck when you go off-road, thanks to these wheels and tire setup that we have here. We have a small little dip here still in the greenhouse glass, similar to what we have on the F-150s, and a line here as well. Love the color because, as I said, this one will definitely stick out when you see this as a traffic cone out on the streets. Now, last but not least, before we look at the interior, we also have a couple of changes to the rear end. And this is actually where I think the black graphic that we have here, this bar that was not available for 2022 right here, this in the rear end, it actually helps this design to have a break there with some black graphics. It makes the tailgate itself not look as tall as it did right here, and sort of makes it feel a little bit more nimble, in my opinion. I also like that the line flow here follows into some pieces of the tail lights here at the top part, and then you have this brake light or LED here having a clear connection to what's going on in the center portion here with the new black graphic. We still thankfully have Frontier in the rear end stamped into the tailgate, and again, these wheels and tires look fantastic. Tailpipe sitting right here on the side, similar to, I do believe, what we have in the previous 2022 as well. The bumper looks to be exactly the same as it was in 2022. Nothing wrong with that. I like that these pieces are body colored, even though you might damage it if you go on some rough trails instead of having it be completely black plastic there. Now, the biggest change I do believe happens in the interior here. So up top we do have the old 2022 one with the 9-inch screen here. Still looks decent. Everything is very functional. Personally, I don't necessarily need a bigger screen than this, even though the layout of this, it looks well integrated in the dash. It doesn't stick up or down or to the sides, and we have some nice vents here integrated as well. But the overall integration here, even though it's well integrated, the styling feels a bit dated, in my opinion, even though I like that we have still a clear housing here. The styling again here for the housing of the gauge cluster also has these round corners and this chamfer here, which makes it feel like a sort of mid-2000s, maybe early 2000s styling for that specific area. Same goes for the steering wheel as well. Looks a little bit dated, but we still have the same steering wheel. Looks like we still have analog clusters here, which is a surprise to me. I definitely thought that Nissan for 2025 is going to update this piece by this much, the infotainment screen, by this much. I thought we were gonna get a full digital gauge cluster as well, but that totally does not bother me at all. I'm actually pretty happy to see that some companies are still using analog tachometers and speedometers here, but this integration looks so much better with the 12.3-inch screen here, so much better than what we have in the 9-inch screen up here. Now it actually looks like it's a 2025 model year, and it looks like they took the Frontier from the front and top part of the grille and they said, let's just implement that piece into the interior here instead. So we still have two Frontier logos or stamped out like this, but now instead of having it on the front end up top on the grille, they removed that and placed it on the interior here as well. I do think it looks very, very cool. Thankfully, we still have, look at all these physical buttons here, and the climate control settings are separated down here, exactly what I want to see. You have the 4-wheel drive settings here, beautiful gear selector as well, some handles here with the exterior color coming back in the interior, making it feel a little bit more classy and elegant. I think overall this refresh of the Nissan Frontier is a great refresh. It keeps the traditional vibe of the Frontier. As I said, in 2022 when it first came out, it already felt like a truck that you're very familiar with, I'm gonna put it that way. And I think it still retains that, even though they update a little bit, specifically when it comes to the interior, to make it feel like it is a 2025 model year, while still keeping the analog feel with the tachometer, speedometer, and all the climate control physical buttons and dials. So perfect update, in my opinion, from Nissan for the new Frontier.